It's the fan phone in, and today, after the day after QPR 2, Luton Town 1, I'm joined as always by my co-host Mark Ryman, and we're going to be taking your calls. After the day after QPR 2, Luton Town 1, I'm joined. Don't know what happened there. Hello, everyone there?
I think
Ryman.
Size nailed it. Minute two. He's
Really?
absolutely done it. Technical issues, minute 2.
Can no one hear me?
He's done it already.
Can no one hear me?
I can hear you.
Are we live? You can hear me.
I can hear you, yeah. I thought we were going to get it.
Oh, I think it's because it's the internet. It's the internet. Nightmare. Ah, always the way with the internet. Shall we reconvene in 5 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to stop streaming. We'll restart soon. Okay, we'll be back. Wait, my internet seems to have picked up. Give us a thumbs up in the comments if it's working. Is it working? Because the internet seems to have picked back up again. Give us a thumbs up. Tell us in the comments what's happening. Otherwise, we can reconvene in 5 minutes. I'm being told we're dropping frames horribly. It's okay now.
Saying it's okay now. Well,
Okay.
let's just go with what we've got.
From the top then. Yes, it's the fan phone in.
Again.
Okay. Lights, camera, action. It's the fan phone in. And as always, we are convening just after a loss. It feels like a loss every single time at the moment. And with me to take your calls is my co-host. It's Mark Ryman. How are we going on, Mark?
I'm fine. I don't like the comment, imagine these two organising a sub. I don't want any blame in this. Thank you very much. But yeah, I'm all right. I don't know whether anyone expects any differently. It's kind of the if you don't laugh, you'll cry situation now. There were some genuinely laugh out loud moments last night. There were some positives as well. And, you know, I think that there was some good movements going forward, some connections, and obviously, you know, it's August and pre-season, so those things align out for the start of the season, right? Oh no, sorry, I'm in a delusion where I just imagine we haven't started yet because apparently these players have never worked together before or ever trained for at the back. But yeah,
it looks like that at times. It looks like these are 11 players that have just been cobbled together, and someone said, "Hey, go on, have a go." Yeah. They don't. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know who they're passing to. They don't know anything. It's awful.
I mean, there was no. It was, but I mean, look, if this was all jokes aside, if this was the game or even the first game of the season, you would turn around and go, right, okay, we lost the game, but for the start of that second half, end of the first half, there were some promising signs. There was some quick, slick football. That, you know, we were getting in behind them. All right, the final ball wasn't good enough, but you know, in between those points, it was like the defence had never met each other before. It wasn't a couple of moments and lacks of concentration as Rob suggested it was. I mean, by all rights, they should have scored 4 if it wasn't for Dunn missing a sitter and a Kaminsky worldy save. That's the best save I've seen him make in a Luton shirt for me. Incredible save to keep it at 0-0 at the time. Frey had a good chance before he scored as well. And then God knows how many they got one after the other in the second half after they got their second goal. I mean, it's laughable. It really is. Yeah, as you say, it's like they've never trained together before.
The funny thing, I'll cut you off there. Very sorry, but the funny thing is, until they scored their seconds in the second half, we looked good. We were playing good football.
Yeah,
we were attacking well. We didn't take our chances when we were attacking, but the second goes in, the heads drop, and then they could have got a third, a fourth, a fifth, just we were gifting them chances by falling over ourselves, not competing for the basic balls. And that's a mentality thing. That's straight up mentality, and that mentality has to be instilled from the top by the boss. And it looks like he's got no mentality. He looks like he's finished.
But he's looked like that. I know. For how long? I mean, I was going in tonight thinking, I don't want to keep talking about it because what else can be said about it? But you're right. I mean, that level of kind of suicidal defending has come from just heads dropping and loss of concentration and loss of discipline, a lack of discipline. I think, from a player point of view, there were some positive signs. I thought Lamine Fan, when he was played in his proper position, which was
it's
most of the
Fanny
second half, as opposed
to Fanny.
Yeah, Fanny was good in the second half. But
he did well as a striker. He did well as a striker.
Yeah, exactly. I texted you earlier because in the East Midlands we're basically underwater, and it took me an hour and a half to get into work today. I couldn't get in at all yesterday, but while I was away, I sent you a voice message to say I wonder how many players now Rob Edwards has started on their debut in the wrong position, because I can think of him, Giles, and Hashioka for starters. Now, Hashioka you might excuse by the fact that we had a ton of injuries, but it's amazing, isn't it, that you've got this player who can do box-to-box midfield, which, you've taken Kraus out of the side, so you've taken that option out, and then you replace him in the wrong position. It boggles the mind. But anyway, I thought the chance he created for himself looked good. Some promise, him driving through the middle. It gives us a bit more of an option rather than just constantly trying to get out to the wings as well. So that was nice to see. I thought Zach Nelson was fantastic again. Yes. And he got rewarded by being taken off. But all right, pick holes and everything. But still, I thought he was very, very good. I thought Chong in spells was good. Again, wasteful with the ball at times as well. It's a mixture with him.
But he looks better when he's in their half rather than our half.
Of course. Yeah, exactly that. So, there were positives, but the negatives are that on their day, QPR beat us by a lot more. It's just... Yeah, I can't see the tide turning if we're going to concede chances, that many good chances, in every away game. Personally,
yeah, it is very true. It's something has to give. I can't see the tide turning, as you say. I really can't. Let's kick this off with our first caller. We have whoopsie, technical error again. Whoopsie. I'll delete that. There we go. We got our first caller this evening. It's the legendary broadcaster. It's Simon Oxley. How are we getting on this evening, Simon?
Good evening. All right,
thanks. Simon.
Struggling a bit with a lurgy, but not too bad.
Well, I hope you get better soon. So you weren't at the last game. It was Jeff Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
But
it was.
It's not good. It's not good right now. And how long can this go on, Simon?
No, Jeff and Justin were on duty last night. So I was listening and then watching, which is obviously a bizarre experience because you know what's going to happen. Although one could argue you knew what was going to happen from the off, but you knew what was going to happen about a minute before it actually did whilst watching. So it just has that inevitability about it, doesn't it, at the moment, away from home, unfortunately. Not necessarily in the fashion that it happened, with that goal, which was unlucky last night, but, just look as though they're going to concede too many times, whether it's a back three or a back four. I agree. How there must be, a point where something has to change, because at the moment we're just going from, certainly from away matches, one game to the next, not really expecting, with any sort of certainty, any sort of change. And it was I think, particularly last night, I was thinking back to the last time I was at QPR with Luton, which of course just over 2 years ago, and that memorable win with Alfie Doughty's goal, and that came off the back of the win against Norwich and ahead of the win up at Huddersfield. That was a really sort of striking trio of matches over the Christmas and New Year period that season for me. But it was a altogether different feeling watching last night.
It's become
I mean,
such a change. Sorry, Ryman, you go.
no, it's all right. It's delayed. I mean, what gets it for me, Simon, and you talked about how often we look like we're conceding goals, is that even when we're playing well, we seem to only be able to have spells of about 15-20 minutes in games before we inevitably sort of almost give up attacking, and the other side inevitably score. And as you say, it was unlucky, that goal, but they hit the post. They should have scored at least 2 or 3 more. It seems like we only seem to play the way we want to play attacking wise for about 20 minutes. And actually, I'd say that's similar sometimes at home as well. We've just been better defensively.
Yeah, I think, look back to the Norwich game. The Norwich goal came off the back of a decent spell, but it was a sort of 20-minute spell, wasn't it? Just after half time. And again, last night, I mean, chatting to Jeff and to Justin this morning, they were saying that, or Jeff was saying that was as well as he'd seen them play away for a long time in that spell. But that
in that 15-minute spell,
exactly,
it was
exactly
15
that.
minutes.
Yes, exactly that. It's that that sort of that moment, that fraction of a game, as opposed to over the course of 80, 90 minutes. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was. I guess I think from the off it seemed a strange selection. I mean, great to see Fane get his opportunity, but that was a little bit out of the blue, and also Walsh coming straight back in. Although I guess he would have said to Walsh, "Look, go and prove yourself," and if he wasn't going to do it last night, then he wasn't ever going to do it. And I think he had a decent-ish game, but yeah, there were some strange ones in there once again. Just looking for some sort of spark, some sort of combination, but it doesn't. Nothing seems to be quite working at the moment.
Just on the point of Lamine Fanny, so you mentioned him coming in, and yes, it's good that he came in, and he's so highly regarded. Loads of AIK fans were watching on and commenting on the club's social media. But the thing that they were saying was he's a defensive midfielder. He's a box-to-box player. What on earth struck Rob Edwards to play him as a false nine, as a 10? Like just behind the striker. He was playing so far advanced. And also everyone's been, I don't want to say having a go at Mike Simmons. They've been asking Mike Simmons because essentially there's just an information vacuum at the moment at the club. And the fact there's been back-to-back games with no press conferences, so we can't get external people and broadcasters like yourself asking the questions of Rob Edwards right now. It is all okay, do you think? Like, why is all this information being withheld? And do you think there's anything sinister going on with the fact that Rob is playing players so crazily out of position?
I think he talks about, I think in the interview with Jeff afterwards, he talks about Fane playing further forward than actually they were expecting, which seemed a little bit strange because one assumes he was getting the message to play where he was, from what had been done in training. I think in terms of the press conferences, I think Mike replied on that in advance. It was just the way the new year and the schedule went, that the players weren't in on the Thursday and the Friday when they'd not media would normally go to the training ground on the Thursday or the Friday. So they Rob and the players weren't in until Saturday. Majority of media obviously are elsewhere on a Saturday or Sunday. For example, so obviously Jeff was, from our point of view, Jeff was at Watford. I was elsewhere. So it wasn't a case of there not being one. It was just wasn't able to accommodate everybody at the time when they'd normally be around.
And the last one
Yeah,
from me. Sorry. I'll ask just a brief one, and then you can wrap this up, Ryman. So Gary Sweet is conspicuous with his absence. Is there a way that Three Counties Radio can, I don't want to say insist, but formally request a meeting to like clear the air, an interview, get a statement? Cambridge United put out a statement off their own backs today. Is there a way BBC Three Counties Radio can get in touch with Gary Sweet and find out, just get an update on what's going on? A vote of confidence for the manager or something?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. I'm not. I would hope that we might be able to facilitate something. Let's see. I mean, it makes sense. Hopefully for all parties. So yeah, it would make sense to try and get some clarity over the next few days.
That'd be very reassuring.
I was going to ask the same thing, exactly that. So you've covered it. I mean, just to reiterate, I think that the worry now, as you said already, Simon, is it just doesn't look like things are really changing. And with that loss at home to Norwich, albeit you might argue that was an undeserved loss. We didn't blow them out the water, but I think we're probably just about the better side in that game. But with that as well, this is really starting to look quite ominous at this point. And it just feels on the pitch that there isn't enough positivity to spark any hope of things changing. And I don't know. And you were at the Norwich game, so at the kind of scenes after that game, I don't know about you. I don't think I've seen that since probably the end of Still or sort of the Richard Money era just before it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you feel the same, and particularly, it wasn't just directed at the manager, at the board as well. It's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some things I from where I am in the gantry, I couldn't see particularly what was going on in the main stand. What I can see is across to the Kenilworth end, I've got a better view of that. Where there was some applause, but obviously some booing and shouting. But I think I made the point on air that those people who were there were only a fraction of those who were there for the game. That many, you could argue, had voted with their feet and gone early, hadn't waited to cheer or boo. And one assumes that they'd gone because they, weren't happy. They decided not to stay and sort of vent their feelings, but they certainly weren't going to stay and clap. So, while there were people clapping after the Norwich game, it was, a small percentage, given that the majority of people had already left their seats. But now, speaking to people who were across on that side in the main stand, yeah, I mean, and I think I've said before, that is where the issue for me comes, is that despite being so far down the road in terms of a new stadium, there's still a lot of work to do, and that it involves everybody's support and backing, and that has to have everybody on the same page. And I think that is the danger for me in this situation, is that the board start to get criticism on things that are going on the pitch, which can start to detract from what's being achieved off it.
And that's fair, but it can be resolved very simply by putting out a statement, or at the very least, just not passive-aggressive boardroom notes. Because when there's no information and the only communication we get from the club is boardroom notes like once every 2 weeks, and at the same time, I think only 10% of the gate get programs now. It's not like the days when you used to edit the programs, Ox. People barely get the programs. People only see what you show them when you take a picture of Wilco's or Gary's program notes and puts on Twitter. Because like the club need to realise that if they want people on side, they've got to tell us, for instance, okay, 90% of the revenue from the Premier League and the parachute payments that are paid at the end of the season, they are ring fenced for the new stadium. Something as simple as that. And that is the easiest way to get the fans back on side, because otherwise there's just an information vacuum. And I'm in the main stand. I'm in Block E, and I walked along to the director's box. I guess you could call it a director's box. And it people, as they were walking out the back of the main stand, they were all shouting abuse down. Bad scenes, really terrible scenes. But Gary was just standing there, sort of inciting it. He wasn't going underneath into the lounge like Wilco and Harford did. He was just sort of standing there looking at his phone, noodling about, and it sort of gave off the wrong impression. And some fans might say Gary Sweet holds the fans with a bit of disdain, and that has changed since being in the Premier League.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that in terms of the sort of communication. I mean, I think the program notes often go up as a whole onto the website, but yeah, it is a different time, certainly. I mean, David Pleat always used to say to me that it was one of the most, when in my time was doing the program, and this is 30 years ago. He always used to say it was one of his most important jobs, was doing his program notes, and it was like going to the headmaster's study when we used to he used to dictate them out and all this sort of thing. But yes, it was that was a different time, and I appreciate there are ways and means that that things can be articulated in this day and age. Look, hopefully we can sort something out and and allow them to get the message across via us or TV or whatever. I think, TV spoke with Gary in the not that long ago, but that was more a piece on Power Court, and it didn't move on to other things. It was it was an interview based solely around the decision the night before at the council meeting. So it didn't, progress into anything sort of football wise at that time. But clearly, that's what people want to hear about now. So, hopefully we may be able to progress something.
We've come a long way from the days of Brian Swain in the programme, where he would literally unearth everything and write so openly about everything. We've also come a long way since that day when Rob Edwards turned up at the Three Counties radio studio and gave his talk about open, expansive football and all that, which has failed to materialise.
That feels a long time ago, doesn't it?
It is a long time ago.
It really does. But I think that, as you were saying, Simon, as well, is that that vacuum is always going to get filled with people assuming the worst if they don't put stuff out, and it's not, and it is direct. As Ollie said, Cambridge have put something out about the manager tonight, and it's just, whether people agree with it or not, at least it gives people clarity on the situation, because it feels like every post match, Rob doubles down more and more almost on this. We should be winning these games. We're playing better than the opposition, and we don't deserve to lose it, which I think is just not justified. It isn't justified overall, and only relying on that as a post match.
No, I understand. Absolutely. There's some. I mean, this sort of game this weekend, it almost feels like an international break, really, because this game at the weekend isn't anything that people particularly concerned about necessarily. I shouldn't think.
I live and work in
Forest.
Nottingham, Simon, so I will be getting a lot of stick. I'm pretending.
Obviously, Forest have got Liverpool coming up on Tuesday, so they may perhaps have eyes elsewhere. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I mean, it feels a bit like a sort of a pause, which international breaks, can often mean changes, but that is in the offing at the moment. So we go into another of those. That is in the offing at the moment. So we go into another of those quote manager under pressure weeks with Preston at home, Oxford away, and then Millwall. Amongst other ones coming up as well before we get into the into the likes of Sunderland and ultimately Watford at the end of February.
Yeah, it's not looking good. It's also not looking good for our frame rate. Apparently, it's coming down. So, Simon, we'll let you